Hey everyone, happy Friday.
How's everyone doing? TGIF.
Since we couldn't be here with you, we thought we'd be here with you.
In spirit and digitally. Hopefully you guys have taken out your homework from last night titled American Expansionism. Miss Lyman just tried to show you guys. Not really, and it's just our voices. So what we want to do quickly, because we do not want to take up your time and have homework over the weekend, is just review some of the answers you have with regards to territories that the United States and countries the United States had with during this age of imperialism.
As always, when we're going over work with you, make sure if we have information that you do not, you are adding on to yours so that you have everything you need in case later we have some sort of assessment on it.
Dun dun dun. All right, so we will start by looking at the definition of imperialism, building an empire by founding colonies or conquering other nations.
An empire then includes a bunch of different nations that are controlled by the same government or ruler of one particular country. So you can start to think of some famous empires throughout history, such as...
We'll get to that later, because this is a one-take shop, and we are actually going to cover that a little bit later. Thank you, Miss Lyman. Why conquer? Think of the 3 G's. God stands for?
Religion.
Gold stands for?
Money.
Glory stands for?
Nationalism.
It is important to note that the United States has been deemed imperialistic prior to this time. Now, what happened is we expanded westward. You might have played the Oregon Trail, or you looked at Western expansion with Miss Rickert or Miss Edmonds. Shout out to Miss Hennerstadt, who's no longer here, but maybe you reviewed it with them. With that officially closing in the 1880s, the United States looked elsewhere.
So something to think about as we look at the different territories, trade partners, and spheres of influence would be thinking about the 3 Gs and why would the United States be interested in this particular piece of land? Were they trying to spread religion? Were they simply seeking to make money? As we all know, it's all about the Benjamins.
Baby.
Or were we trying to spread U.S. pride throughout the world in our nationalistic way? Let's start with
the Alaska Territory. Pictured to your right is William Seward. He was once a political rival of Abraham Lincoln and thought to be the presumptive presidential nominee in 1860, but Lincoln defeated him in a primary. He then became Lincoln's Secretary of State.
Can I assume, since you called it the Alaska Territory, that I should classify this as a territory in my chart?
Yes.
So, Seward had his eye on Alaska, if you will.
I see what you did there.
And not everyone really understood why, because everyone assumed it was kind of a massive chunk of frozen tundra way up yonder to the north there. However, it was actually full of a lot of natural resources.
If you look here, this is the size of Alaska projected over the continental United States. It was sold at 2 cents per acre. So with all these natural resources, which we'll get to in a second, it was quite the deal. It should be noted that Seward envisioned the United States as a global power. Although we think of him during the Civil War, he thought with the Civil War well in hand, once the country is united, we can then start to expand.
By the way, 2 cents per acre was less than the price of the Louisiana Purchase, which came in at just under 3 cents an acre. So it really was kind of a bargain. He purchased it from Russia, with the final price being $7.2 million in gold. So what sorts of natural resources might I find in Alaska?
What you'll find is fur, timber, minerals, and, of course, gold. Again, think about those 3 Gs. We're not going to review it every time, but as you're looking at the benefits, it's something that you should take note of. Miss Lyman, was William Seward's purchase of Alaska accepted and universally praised during his time?
No, they actually call it Seward's folly, and folly would be another word for kind of a blunder, like a screw-up, so to speak. And he was kind of made fun of for this, and it wasn't until later years that people realized it was actually quite a good deal. It was a Throwback Thursday a while back, actually, if you remember that.
I do. A good deal, a new deal, all these deals. Let's keep it rolling. Up next, the United States acquired the Midway Islands.
As a territory. Now, I wonder, by looking at this image, why we might call them the Midway Islands.
My thought bubble is up. Thought bubble, thought bubble. Oh, maybe it's because it's midway between North America, the United States, and Asia, Japan and China.
Haven't personally measured, but it looks pretty accurate from that map there. This is going to be the first of the offshore islands to be annexed by the U.S. government. By the way, let's keep this name in mind for when we get to World War II, because it might become an important factor in the naval battles. Why did we want the Midway Islands?
Well, you got to remember, our ships ran on coal, so we need different coaling stations to make sure they could refuel. Part of the United States, now that it was growing and we're trying to think of ourselves as an empire, is that we wanted a bi-coastal navy. What does that mean? It means we want a navy in the Atlantic Ocean and we want a navy in the Pacific Ocean.
All right. Does that cover the Midway Islands?
I think so.
All right. The Samoan Islands are next. So the reason we call them the Samoan Islands is because it's a group of islands, also known as a
territory. Miss Lyman just tried to throw a big way and pull a fast one on me. You guys are probably wondering, where the heck are the Samoan Islands on this map? What you should do is look, see Honolulu in the focal point of this map, go straight south, or for some of you that's down, and you'll see American Samoa Islands. We got to become more familiar with our geography.
Right, so we don't say down, we say south. And by the way, you only see American Samoa labeled, but actually there is a regular Samoa as well today. It is apparently not labeled on this map, but we have the Samoan Islands are now Samoa and American Samoa, one of which being kind of controlled in some way by New Zealand. Fun fact.
Fun fact. Originally, the Samoan Islands were divvied up between Great Britain, Germany, and the United States. Great Britain pulled out, and it was divided up between Germany and the United States. Little foreshadow here. Eventually, Germany loses control. Is that interesting for you? Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, there's the eyebrow.
Mr. Janikis, I kind of see a pattern of European nations and the United States kind of almost in a way competing to gain new territories through imperialistic ventures. Are you noticing the same pattern?
Yes, this feels like one of the G's. Maybe it's Old Glory. And again, you'll notice another station to fuel our ships. Remember, having a navy and showing the world that you have it also demonstrates strength and power.
The rock is Samoan. It's not random. All right, on to Hawaii.
Hawaii.
All right, so for fun, the first thing you can practice doing now, and I hope everyone in the classroom looks at you while you do it, is pronounce the Queen of Hawaii's name.
Which is on the left side.
Liliuokalani.
Say it one more time.
Liliuokalani.
I'm just trolling Miss Lyman. My apologies. We're having way too much fun with this. Miss Lyman,
right.
Can you give us the backstory of the Hawaiian Islands starting in the 1790s?
I would love to. So starting in the 1790s.
Which is right when George Washington became president, for context.
One of the biggest crops to be grown in Hawaii is sugar. Now, just for a second, imagine all the things that sugar is used in, and as you can probably guess, it is going to be a pretty big money maker. The fact that there are so many sugar plantations that start to spring up in Hawaii is going to attract foreigners from Europe, from the United States, and before you know it, we actually have plenty of American businessmen who have settled in Hawaii in order to start and run their own sugar plantation and make money.
Which one of the G's is that?
So there's a lot more that happens in between this, but the long story short is that we had a couple, not more than a couple really, a group of sugar planters, a group of businessmen, most of them white, who were interested in making more money. And one thing that stood in their way of making money was something called tariffs.
Tariffs, you recall, are taxes on imported goods. Remember, the Hawaiian Islands had no relationship to the United States other than people migrated there. So the United States' government was thinking, we could make some money here by raising tariffs on those goods shipped from the Hawaiian Islands, particularly anything made of sugarcane.
Well, the businessmen in Hawaii did not want that to be the case, and so they decided that if Hawaii was part
of the United States or a territory, that those tariffs could be lifted.
Now, there was a problem, and the problem was the Hawaiian government at the time, which was a monarchy, and Queen Liliuokalani had recently come into power, and she sought to make sure that none of this was the case. She did not want to be annexed by the United States. So, what do you do when you don't like your government and you have some support from the United States? You overthrow them.
Fun fact, check out Mr. Hafner's lunchbox. It is a Dole lunchbox. That is not a pun. That is a company that a lot of you buy your juice or orange juice from. How does this relate to the Hawaiian Islands?
So this guy, Sanford Dole, he was one of those businessmen that helped to lead the charge against Queen Liliuokalani and the monarchy. His cousin was a guy named James, and after the successful throw of the government, little ways down the line, cousin James is going to be the founder of the Hawaiian Pineapple Company. Today we know of it as
Dole.
Dole. So the official annexation of Hawaii is in 1898, and you all know what happens later in, 1959?
It becomes a
State. No, is that the right year? I was asking.
It's either 59 or 49.
All right, cool. I think it's 59.
It's one of them.
Look it up. Tell us.
You tell us.
Okay. Woo.
Now, one other thing that was a benefit other than acquiring territory and goods like sugar was the acquisition of a naval base. You may have heard Pearl Harbor. This is going to be another foreshadow. Remind me next Friday, or Miss Lyman, to talk about Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah, it is 1 week from Friday.
Yes.
Nice.
You're
All
probably
right, cool.
like, what? Okay.
All right, next up, Japan. Look at that good-looking fella.
What a stud.
Meet Commodore Matthew Perry.
He's a friend of ours. You guys watch Friends, you'll get that joke.
Will they?
I don't know.
All right,
Netflix.
let us know. So we are interested in being a trade partner with Japan. However, Japan is not interested in us. They're very wary of foreigners, and they have more of what we would refer to as a closed door policy, if you will.
They were very isolationistic, meaning they tried to isolate themselves from all of the West, and East for that matter, during this time period.
So Commodore Matthew Perry attempts to basically just through a talk open up this peaceful alliance where we can trade with each other, and Japan essentially says, no thank you, or if you will, thank you next.
To have context, oh man, what is an Ariana Grande? Just for context, Japan at this time was very much a feudal society, so it emulates the medieval times. Instead of having knights, they had samurais. Instead of having feudal lords, they had shoguns. So they did not have this modern industrial technology. Matthew Perry shows up, as Miss Lyman said, says, you're going to sign this treaty. If not, I'll be back in 3 or 4 months, and you will see what the consequences will be.
And so he comes back with
eight ocho warships with torpedoes and machine guns. Again, Japan is a feudal society with swords.
And he's like, hey, Japan, how about you trade with us now? And Japan is slightly more agreeable this time around for some reason. Essentially, they view this as a veiled threat, knowing full well that the U.S. has way more than 8 warships back at home. They referred to them coming into the harbor as the black ships of evil appearance, and they reluctantly agree to start trading with the United States. Fun fact, considering what Mr. Janikis was telling you about the shoguns and the feudal society, This is like the beginning of the end of feudal society in Japan, because people are going to start to lose faith in the system that kind of allowed all these foreigners to come into the country.
Last note on Japan. It has a remarkable transformation. Within 60 years, 1905, they have a modern war with Russia, the Russo-Japanese War, where most of the European powers thought Russia was going to wipe the table with them. And what as it turns out is Japan defeats them rather soundly.
Oh, and here you go, the benefits.
Oh, the benefits is, guess what? We start selling our goods to them.
All right, and last but not least,
China.
China is a sphere of influence.
What is a sphere of influence? Oh, that's a vocabulary word. Check it out.
So a couple things to check out. First, the cartoon on the left. Notice who is meeting and trying to figure out which part of China they would like, and notice who is not present.
It looks like, yup, it looks like Western powers, but I don't see any Chinese diplomats there.
Interesting. And we'll get to the one on the right in just a moment. Very brief, long story short of this. The British were some of the first to be interested in China. Again, very isolated, closed-door policy that started like halfway through the dynastic period in China. But by the time of the final dynasties, they were very much wary of foreigners. Remember silk trade stuff? Nobody wanted to get this. They didn't want to give away their silk secrets, so that was a big factor in it. But anyways.
Did you ever teach 6th grade, Miss Lyman?
Sorry, I get a little into it. I get excited. So British is interested, China's not. So what Britain starts doing is smuggling opium into the country in the hopes that they can collapse China's economy and force them to trade with Britain.
Wait, so you're saying they had Chinese people smoke opium, get them hooked on the drug, and then continue to sell it to them so they can make profit?
That's accurate.
Wow.
And China said, please stop. And Britain said, okay, wink, wink, but kept doing it on the down low. This led to the first Opium War. China lost. This led to another Opium War. China lost.
Led by the Fists of Righteous Harmony. That is a real name. You can fact check that.
And so China loses the Opium Wars. They're forced to trade with Britain. Now other nations are like, hey, well, Britain did it. Maybe we can too.
Which takes us to 1899, where Secretary of State John Hay decides and meets with diplomats, and they decide collectively that they'll have the open door policy. After the Second Boxer Rebellion, the Chinese are defeated soundly, and check this out. They're invaded by all these European countries, right? And as a penalty of trying to defend their homeland, they have to pay $333 million.
How much of that went to the U.S.?
A cool $25 million.
Not too shabby. So you're saying they tried to get foreigners out, and instead they ended up having to pay them a whole bunch of money.
And let them stay.
The open door policy, by the way, said that all nations should have equal interest in China. Again, who was not involved in coming up with that decision?
Imperialism.
All right, so once again, we now have access to China's closed market. Another fun little cartoon about carving the Chinese melon. Where's my slice?
Right there.
All right.
Next! Hopefully that clarifies less. Now, let's go Flashback Friday to yesterday. On Throwback Thursday, we played a card game. Remember? I hope so. At this point, you should be connecting the dots in that it was a simulation regarding imperialism.
And some of you might already be thinking whether or not you were in imperial power or perhaps a territory that was taken over by an imperial power.
Or a sphere of influence.
So let's see if we can figure out who was who. Group A.
Ooh, big, powerful group. You are the United States. But hey, wasn't there another big, powerful group? What's another big empire during this time?
Probably a nation we've mentioned a lot so far in our notes.
They said that the sun never sets on this empire because it was so global.
I couldn't think of which one.
Oh, there it is.
Governor?
Oh, boy. Great Britain.
All right, that leads us to Group C, which you may have noticed not as much power as groups A and B.
Only could trade with A and B.
But it didn't seem like they were fully controlled, did it?
No.
What flag is that?
Now, don't look it up. Just trust me. This is the Chinese flag from this time period. It is not the red communist flag of the modern era.
All right. So that leads us to Group D, which felt like...
It was kind of controlled or colonized, if you will, by the United States or Group A. So it has to be something, one of the territories that we just discussed. This, of course, is...
Hawaii!
Yes, that is the Hawaiian flag from this time. Again, you can fact check us, but we're right.
And finally, Group E.
Let's see. A country controlled by the British up until a famous figure helped liberate them. I'm leading you there. Who is it? Oh, wait.
What?
Who is that? Oh, wait. That's India from this time period.
I was looking for the spinning wheel from Gandhi. All right. So, hopefully you took the time to answer your simulation reflection questions on the back of yesterday's homework. You can check that out and see how you did compared to what the countries were. Next up, once again, I tried to show you the piece of paper that you cannot see. You should have, on your way in, picked up a copy of the map.
7.1, the United States gains, all about them gains. Shout out to the fitness people.
My goodness.
Overseas territories.
So we are going to do some coloring here, and all the directions are located on the front, but you are going to need your colored pencil. You're going to have to maybe even use an atlas or a map on your iPad to locate some of the things on this map.
And if you don't have red, blue, or purple, that's okay. Just use 3 different colors.
Yeah, but make sure you fix the key and tell us which one is which. So you can easily cross off blue and write green, for example. You can figure that out. You are problem solvers. So locate, label, and color depending on whether they are territories, spheres of influence, or trading partners.
There we go. What you need to do right now is press pause and come back when you are done.
Bye. Okay, so hopefully you actually paused it and finished your map, because we're moving on to the next part of your assignment for the day.
Which takes us to number 1. Which territory or land influenced by the United States do you consider to be the most important to the United States' expansionism, and why?
So things we want you to think about when you answer this question would be...
The 3 G's, God, glory, and gold. Which one do you think is most important will probably drive your answer?
Is it more important to have an open market to sell excess goods?
Gold.
Is it more important to have fuel stations for the Navy so I could have that bi-coastal Navy?
Glory.
Or am I most concerned about natural resources for industry?
Also gold. No glory here.
Think about that.
Or God.
Make sure you answer the question.
And finally, do you think the United States should be considered an empire? Refer back to the definition of empire at the start of this video. Please use the CR format. Before you do that, when you think of empire, you might think of Age of Empires. This is a video game from before you guys were born. You may think of Alexander the Great, who went east instead of west, was the Macedonian king of Greece. Or emperor of Greece. I did not teach world history. There is Julius Caesar.
Oh, poor Julius Caesar.
Julius, looking lonely.
You know, you can also think of the Lyman original board game called The Rise and Fall of Empires, which some of you played in 6th grade, because the Roman Empire was perhaps one of the best examples of the classic crash and burn phase of an empire.
Another empire might be the Ottoman Empire, now known as modern-day Turkey. Not that Turkey.
So when you think of these things, do you think of the United States?
Wait, what is this? The Galactic Empire? That's what probably some of you think about. But the United States, is it an empire? Maybe I should be in for Halloween next year.
Oh my God.
We've been doing this way too long.
Okay, move on.
So, let's think of the following. When you think of the United States, wait, an emperor? Isn't that what an empire has? Some of you are like, we're a democracy. We represent people. We don't rule people. But listen to them these statistics.
1.4 million active military personnel, including 2 of Mr. Janikis' cousins.
Shout out to Andrew and Evan.
Thank them for their service. 1.1 million reservists and members of the National Guard, including another of Mr. Janikis' cousins. He has a lot of cousins. Probably not as many as I do. It's a contest.
It's a lot.
Okay.
I have no idea.
All right. And 718,000 civilians work for the Department of Defense, including Mr. Janikis'
Mom, which I did not put in there.
I knew that, though. Who recently retired after 41 years and 8 months. Lovely lady. She told me a lot of really good secrets about Mr. J at his wedding, by the way.
Oh. The big point here is not my family. It's just how many people are in the military.
What else does it have?
It has 1,000 military bases in 130 countries.
Wow, that's a lot of representation on that map. And military personnel in 156 countries. By the way, the total number of countries is 194, for your reference.
Okay, glad I got that one right. An aircraft carrier. For those of you that don't know, that is the ship to your right, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be showing it to you. It is essentially a mobile naval base, so we can mobilize wherever in the world we are needed. There is another one. Those are fighter planes, F-15s or 16s on the top of that ship. The United States has 10 commissioned, which means they're out on the water, and 2 under construction. What about some of the other world powers? China!
Ooh.
1 commissioned, 1 under construction. Fun fact, the 1 commissioned was actually bought from the old Soviet Union, so it is not modern by any means.
Ooh.
Russia! Wow. Mr. Putin is not happy with only having 1 commissioned and 0 under construction. Again, this is to give context about our influence globally. In Great Britain, that former wonderful power, nothing. If you want to read more about an American empire, there's Howard Zinn's A People's History. You'll notice to the right, it is a graphic novel. If you want to check it out, Ms. Lyman and I have it available. It's an easy read. And finally, let's connect this to Hollywood.
Sure, you do it, because I've never seen this movie.
What recent movie? It's about 10 years old, so not recent for you, because that's like more than most of your lives, pretty much. It's a commentary on colonialism, imperialism. It is, wait for it, Avatar! Oh, that's why Miss Lyman's so blue. She's never seen it. For those of you that have never seen Avatar, it's the story of the human race expanding out to the outer depths of space to find a made-up resource, think oil, and they try to steal it from the natives, the naive, whatever they're called, the blue people on the left. Eventually what happens is they take over, or they try to take over, their planet named Pandora. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you because they're coming out with the 2nd and 3rd one in the next year or 2, so you'll have to check it out, but it's the humans trying to take over alien race for their natural resources.
Thank you, IMDb.
Thank you. Now, we never actually got to your answer on whether the United States is an empire, but we just want you to think about it as we go through the rest of this unit.
Based on everything we just told you, you might already be forming an opinion. That will help you answer the second question on your map. Now, we are assuming you can finish this all in class today. If not, we got to see those completed maps on Monday. Now, if you do work hard and get through everything, guess what? We gave you a new vocab assignment yesterday. Work on your Module 7 vocab. Watch the American Imperialism crash course. And if for some reason you finish all of those things, go see the sub because you must have missed something.
Yes. And Monday, we'll be looking at Disney. What? Yes. And on that note, have a great weekend.
Bye.